everyone, it's Jessica Dybzinski. Thank you for watching today. I'm collaborating with my friends in the Makers with Heart group, and for the month of June, we are all using some Irresistibles cardstock from Close to My Heart. You can see here that I'm going to be using the floral pattern, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later as we get into the video, but I thought that this would work really well for my project today. So I do want to scrapbook 2 3x4 photos of my daughter reading. Here is one of them here. Of course, my photo printer ran out of ink yesterday, so I'm just going to be using these as placeholders until I get that in the mail. And I've also gone through my stash and pulled out a couple of pieces of pattern paper that I want to use. So I've got this fun mulberry heart print from the storybook collection, plus 2 from an older Mixin collection. And then I also want to use this stamp and thin cut set called I'd Rather Be Reading. So my daughter's picture in the photo is really this peacock color, which is an older retired color, and I couldn't find any pattern paper that I still had in peacock. That's why I thought the Irresistibles would be so perfect. So I'm going to create my own pattern paper in exactly the color I need it to be, and I'll show you how I do that here in just a second. My other squares are all 2x2, so I'm just going to cut myself a strip 2 inches. Actually, I'm going to move it up and do 2x6. I will end up with 3 squares, but I thought it would be easier just to create my irresistible paper all in one go rather than cutting it into smaller squares just yet. So what I'm going to do is put down my all-purpose mat, which is just a really nice work surface and let you get messy and clean it up easily. And I'm going to grab my peacock ink and a blending brush, and then all I'm going to do is apply some color over this piece of cardstock. Now the cool thing about Irresistibles is there is an irresistible part of the pattern that will not take on any kind of color. So whether you're using ink or distress oxides or watercolor paint or markers or a shimmer brush, you really can add, even gloss spray, you can really kind of add just about any medium of color, and then take a cloth, a dry cloth, and then just rub over it to remove any of that excess ink that's sitting on top of that UV coating, and it's just going to pop, and that part of the paper will stay white, but the rest of the paper will have absorbed the color. So like I said, I thought this would be the perfect way to create my own peacock colored pattern paper since I couldn't find any in my stash since it is an older retired color. I'm going to go ahead and trim that down into some 2x2 squares. And then I've already gone ahead and edge distressed some of my other papers, but I'm just going to finish that up, hitting the sides of each of them with a coordinating color of ink. Okay, so I am working off of a layout that I saw on Pinterest, and I will leave that linked in the description box down below. But basically, it just involves having a bunch of squares kind of cascading down the right-hand side of the page. And in the pin that I was following, it does have one 4x4 photo, but I'm just going to adjust it a little bit to work for my 2 photos that I'm going to end up printing at 3x4. And I just spent a little bit of time kind of fussing with the placement of all of my squares and, you know, which ones I wanted to go where. I was trying to spread out my colors. And of course, you know, I did this part and then I moved everything and I had to start all over again when I was ready to adhere things down, but that's okay. This is going to be the basic idea right here is how I think I'm going to put my photos down. And then I did also die cut these glasses out. It's from the Hey Handsome card making workshop, and I cut that out of some mulberry cardstock. And then once I was done kind of laying things out, I thought, you know what, I still have a ton of white space over to the left-hand side of my page. And I know I have a peacock colored shimmer brush sitting here on my desk. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to add a couple of that same color, that peacock color I'm trying to bring into my layout here. And I'm going to add it in some splatters. So I just kind of tapped it very gently with my scissors because I didn't really want to have any big splatters. I was really going for a kind of a delicate look. And so luckily my pen wasn't too juicy. I hadn't inked it up in a little while, and I just got some of those really small splatters. Unfortunately, you can't really appreciate the shine on camera, but in real life, there is some good sparkle there. All right, off camera, I have stamped and colored some of the images from that I'd Rather Be Reading stamp set, and I'm just matching up my coordinating dies here so that I can run it through and cut all of those colored images out. I will actually cut a couple of additional ones just on plain cardstock, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them all together. They end up being, I want to say, 3 pieces of cardstock thick, so that way they have a really nice chipboard kind of dimension to them. Okay, so now that I have prepared all of the things, I think my paper should be dry from those splatters. I'm going to go ahead and start adhering some things down to the page. And when I had pulled all of those squares off, I tried to keep them stacked and in somewhat of an order, but of course I managed to totally screw it up while I was coloring because I kept pulling my squares out and kind of trying to match it to my marker colors. And so basically I have to start all over again at this point. So they are going down, I think, in a little bit of a different order. And I think I actually liked the way that they were the first time I had them put down, but it does end up working out. I'm just, like I said, trying to make sure that things are kind of spread out a little bit. And once I do start gluing, I am using my T-square ruler just to hook onto the side of my Versamat so that I can make sure that they end up straight. And then I am going to overlap my photos on just a few of those squares. Like I said, in the original layout, it does have a 4x4 that kind of nestles in there perfectly, but I needed to make mine just a little bit bigger to accommodate those 2 photos. So I will just trim off the excess that's hanging off the side there from my squares. And then also I did put a little bit of adhesive on the back to hold it all in place while I was lining things up. And I just used my rub and remove eraser to quickly take that off. So now I just need to figure out where my stamped die cuts are going to go. And honestly, it was almost where I put them the very first time. I never have my embellishments come together this quickly or easily. It was almost like I put them down on the page and I was like, yeah, I think that's where they're going to go. I moved the glasses around a little bit, but they're going to stay up there at the top. I like the cat and the books and the stack of the books exactly where I put them in the first time. And I thought, oh, that was really easy, actually. So this page, with the exception of the coloring, which did take me about a half an hour, this page was incredibly fast to create. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to have my title and my journaling over there to the left-hand side. There are a lot of really great sentiments on the stamp set, and I think I'm going to stamp them around and on top of those squares and just kind of scatter some of them. I really love, there's one that says fiction addiction, bookish, I'd rather be reading. There are a couple of other ones that didn't really connect to my story. So there's one that says my weekend is booked, and I love that, but this was a weeknight, and my journaling is going to talk about how my daughter was just doing her 20 minutes of reading for homework. So unfortunately I couldn't use that one, but yeah, so many great sentiments here on the stamp set. So since I'm going to have to put my photos on later, I made sure not to get glue on the very edge of those die cuts, so that way I could still slide my picture underneath where they overlap the photo a little bit. I decided to use my Peacock ink for some of that stamping, so I'm going to flip my Versamat over and use the foam side of things and just start grabbing some of those different sayings. So I'm going to start with fiction addiction, and like I said, I'll stamp them kind of around and on top of a few of the squares. And then I am going to use the one that says I'd rather be reading as my title above the journaling. I did use a little bit of a pencil line underneath that one since it didn't have a square to sit on. I wanted to make sure that I had it on straight, but I was able to erase that line later. And then I accidentally hit stop when I thought I was hitting record, so I kind of missed the adding of the gems, but I just scattered those around the page. You can see them here. Those are some gold glitter gems. And that was it. Like I said, the coloring took a little bit of time, but it really came together very quickly. I love that Irresistible paper and how I was able to create my own pattern in the color that I needed, even though it was a retired color. Like I said, there are some other designs that are available in that Irresistible pack. You can even get some Irresistible alphabet stickers and make your own alphabet titles with this same kind of Irresistible cardstock. So lots of really great ways to use it. I am the last of the Makers with Heart who is going for this month's collaboration. So I will leave all the other ladies' links in the description box down below, as well as some links to anything that is available, including that awesome Irresistible cardstock. All right, guys, thanks for being here with me today. Happy crafting. See you next time. Bye.